So what we're going to do here tonight is a pinwheel flank steak. I've been asked to do this several times by my wife, but if she remembers way back when, I used to make these with my brother John all the time. It was a family tradition. What I did is I took our flank steak and I trimmed the ends of it off, just to square it off. So I don't particularly agree with gloves because they give you a false sense of security. Keep your hands clean when you're doing this. It makes it much better. So what I'm going to do here is make a quick, just herbs and some salt and pepper, just to give this some flavor. You don't want to just have this on its own. And then I'm going to repeat the herbs right into goat cheese mixture that I'm doing before. Sometimes I feel if you just make it into the goat cheese itself, you'll get that burst of flavor, but when you spread it out here with the salt and the pepper and everything else, it just gives it more of a flavor. So herbs de Provence and goat cheese. So the herbs de Provence mixture that I'm going to make is, and I really don't measure a lot of things, I look at it and say, how much do I need? And I go like this. I don't want to overpower the meat, and I don't want to overpower the cheese either. But this is going to be something that I can use in both the mixture and as the rub. I'm not being bashful on the salt on this because I'm not adding a lot of salt to anything else, and this is making a lot of mixture here. So I just mix that up like that. There you go. Now I'm going to cover this on both sides right away, but I'm not going to kill it because I'm still going to mix some of this in with. But you want to coat it. You want to give it a nice coating. Look at the marbling in that. It's beautiful. Flank steak's a beauty. If you know how to do it. That's important too, that you're cutting it this way when you do this, because when I roll this, if I roll it this way, it's actually going to be, when I cut it, across the grain. You don't want that. You want this with the grain. I'll show you that later on. So we're going to flip that over. We got that both sides. And I'm going to stuff it on this side. This is the inside of it. When I butterfly this is actually the inside of it. So what I'm going to do now is just take some goat cheese. I'm going to take probably 1.5 logs of goat cheese and mix it in with some herbs de Provence and that mixture that we just made, and I'm going to smear it all over the top. Here we go. So again, using incredibly clean hands, we're going to mix about 12 ounces of goat cheese. One of the things you should really look at is know the taste of your goat cheese. They can range from salty to mild to pungent to a lot of different things. And when you're adding the herbs de Provence and that salt that we put in before, you want to taste this first and see if it's salty, whether it's what do you call it. If it's salty, then change to something else. But anyway, I've tasted this. We're ready to go. I'm just going to add the same mixture that we had before. Again, not trying to overkill the flavor of the goat cheese or the other ingredients that we're going to be putting into this. And I'm just going to mix this by hand. I like doing this because the warmer it gets, the easier it is to spread. And you just know the feeling of it. Cooking is not only smells, but it's feel. Especially when you get into baking. Some of that is really all by feel. But I'm looking at this now and I'm saying, you know what? I think we need a little bit more of that herbs de Provence mixture with the black pepper and salt. And just a tad more. There we go, that's perfect. And now I can feel the spreadability of this too. You can also feel if it's lumpy. You can feel if it's, what you need to do with it. I wouldn't do this with a beater. or anything else. You want this creamy. You want this, you know, not airy. You want this to be nice and creamy. So you can see all the herbs and everything mixed in there. Look at that. That's beautiful. So again, I'm going to take this and I'm going to use my hands because that's what I like to do. I'm going to put this into the, right there. You want to give yourself a little bit of room, you know, so it doesn't squirt out too much, because this is going to melt as we grill this off. And we're going to put this on a very high heat. We're going to go with a probably, 400 degree heat, 500, 600 degree heat, right over real good charcoal. So depending on how you set your charcoal grill up and what you see for temperature is what you're going to get, but it's probably going to range somewhere between 400 and 600 degrees. So when I roll this, see how the grain goes this way? All the grain goes this way. You wouldn't want to roll it this way, because when you slice that, you're going to get that grain. And when you go to eat that, it's going to be very stringy. It's going to be very it's not appetizing. So what we're going to do is we're going to roll it the other way, so that when we cut that, those little strings are actually just cut right off at that thing. And it's not really strings, it's really good meat. So that's important, how you roll it. And I really do. I've got some heavy spots in here. I'm going to even this all right out. I'm going to use that whole 12 ounces though, and then even it all the way through, because when you roll this, they get pretty big, and you want to. Just even it out so when it rolls up, it looks nice. Okay. Okay, so now next I'm going to add some red pepper. Normally I grill my own and do my own peppers like this, but today I'm just using a really high quality pepper. They're delicious, and they're actually made in my hometown, so that's always a good thing. Put these right over the top. We're going to load spinach on this next. Now you don't want to go, you want to make sure that you get to the edges of it though, because somebody's going to get that first piece, and you want them to have a bite of it the same as everybody else. But I will say that it kind of melts out that way too. Following this, we're going to just get some spinach to put on this, because I think that would be really good. You can't make them too fat, because all of a sudden you're going to get this thing that you can't roll. But I think we're going to be okay with this one. Perfect. So now for our pinwheels, what we're going to do is we're not only putting the peppers in there, I'm going to put some spinach in there. And what I like to do with the spinach and the basil, we're putting both of those in there, spinach and basil in here. I like to just take the heavy stems off, you know, and kind of peel them back so that that string comes out. And then as you're doing that, you'll get a nice chiffonade out of that without having all that. You know, it seems like a pain in the butt, but it makes a better product. Look at each leaf, make sure that it's right. So in order to do a chiffonade, what you're going to do is kind of line the leaves up and stack them up. What you're basically making is a cigar. You don't want it, well, it depends on how much you have, but you don't really want a cigarette. But you want to lay it out so that you can roll it. And what you do is you're going to roll that up nice and tight, all the way from front to the end, just like that. And now you take your knife You start right here, just with a nice even, and it depends on how fine you want it. So besides the spinach, we chiffonaded some basil and put that across the top. And now what I'm going to do is take this really nice extra virgin olive oil that I get locally. It's sourced from Italy and actually has a date on it when it was pressed, which is really nice to know that this is only like 6 months old at this point, and it has such a nice flavor. But I'm just going to put that over the top of it just to help with the flavors here. So just not much. Okay, so I put my olive oil over the top of that. Now what I'm going to do is just take my kosher salt. I'm not going to use the same mixture that I had before. I have enough of the herbs in there. So I just want a little salt for the olive oil. And my pepper went somewhere. And pepper. There we go. Now, we have to roll this puppy up. So again, we talked about the grain of this. You know, this is something that you want to really look at. So the grain is going this way, as we talked about before. And so when we roll this up, we're going to cut right across this because we're going to skewer it. So what I'm going to do is take this end right here, and I'm going to roll this up as tight as possible. You want this to look neat on the inside. Push everything in there. There we go. And take a look at the end of that. So now what I'm going to do, I'm going to portion this out. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this right through the center of this and say that's one portion. I'm going to take another one saying that that's where I'm going to cut it, is here. So again, I'm going to go out to here. So when I cut this in the middle, you want this to stay together. You want to feel the other side where that seam is and push it through there. And same thing, you want to go a little bit further. And I can feel the seam is right here, so I'm coming up on that seam and pushing it through. Now you can do this several different ways now. I'm going to take ours tonight. I'm not going to smoke it. I'm actually going to cut this into steaks and pinwheel it, and I'm going to cook that right on a very hot grill. Now the risk that you have when you do it that way is losing all your cheese out of the middle. So what I'm going to do is sear it real quick, and I'm going to move it off to another spot. I'm going to put it onto a pan so that any of the juices or any of the stuff that comes out, you're capturing that. You're not letting it go down into the fire. I'll show you that later. ounces on there. And now we're going to take these and put them right over the hot coals. Before they were really black, now we got a lot of red with the white around the edges. So we're going to just stick these on here. Watch what I do with these. Give them a few minutes, just a couple seconds on that side. So what I've done is, after I grilled them off on that one side, I flipped them over and just put them onto the other side very quickly and moved them onto a prepared pan, a little bit of olive oil on the bottom of it. And then I took that and I pushed it over to the other side on indirect heat just for about another 2 or 3 minutes. And when you see the juices that are coming out here, that are pink, and you feel this, it should be perfect. So now I'm going to plate up some acorn squash and butternut squash that I've baked in the oven with brown sugar and cinnamon and a little molasses. Tomato pudding over on the other side, underneath there.